Hello people of YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So in our last 3 videos, I showed you exactly how to set up the Vision Pro simulator. I gave you a tour of the simulator and showed you all the buttons, bells, and whistles. But today's episode is really cool. I'm going to teach you all about SwiftUI. So if you've never written code before, if you've never created a user interface before, this is the episode for you. It's going to be really straightforward. I'm assuming that you have 0 experience. But what we're going to do is we're going to use really simple code to create some reusable buttons, views, and just give you a better understanding of what code is and how you can use it to create really cool, futuristic, sleek looking apps. So, there's not really much else I can say other than I'm so happy that you've made it this far, and I can't wait to teach you these awesome tricks that will really be the foundation of you creating apps in general. So these skills will transfer over to the watch, the iPhone, the iPad, the Apple TV. So let's go ahead and just hop right in. So let's go ahead and hop right into Xcode. And we'll start off with our new app. So last time we created our app, then we created our new app. Let's go ahead and just reuse our new app and we'll see what we can do in here. All right, so welcome back to our new app. Now let's just quickly give you a overview of the navigation here because I never really told you how to use Xcode. I just kind of said, hey, let's boot up the simulator. So welcome back to Xcode. There's a few things you do need to know. So for starters, if you don't see this window here on the left-hand side, you can tap this pane here and notice how that reveals or hides this little sidebar here. So this is a really important section here. You definitely want to see it. And let's actually collapse this here so I can explain exactly what we're looking at. So at the very base here, we have our new app. You can see this is an Xcode project. It has a target, which goes to visionOS. You can see here, it's going to Apple Vision. And that's really all you need to know here. I could tell you everything else, but again, right now I'm just showing you how to build the buttons. So let's dig a little bit deeper. Inside of our new app, this project here, we have a folder with the exact same name, our new app. And inside of that, we have a few different files. So we have these files with the bird next to them. These are going to be Swift files. So this is where all of our code will be stored. So you can see we have our new app. This is the app's code. Then we have our content view. We've taken a look at this one before. This is one of the actual views that we use to interact with some content. And then we have immersive view. We have an image-based light, which obviously is just an image. And then we also have an assets folder, which we'll use to store different assets like our app icon or any other assets that we might use for our 3D models or app UI or anything else like that. In the info section, we'll talk more about this, but this is where we store our app's permission. So if you need permission for the camera, if you need permission for hand tracking, you'll definitely need to add that here. Then there's another folder with preview content. We won't need to touch that today. And then there's also the packages folder, which is where all of our reality kit content is stored. So this would normally be like our 3D stuff that we're using specifically for Vision Pro. So again, lots of files here. This may already feel overwhelming. So let's actually just start by creating a brand new file. That way we have nothing extra and there's no tricks up my sleeve. So we'll go ahead and click on our new app, the folder, and then we will right click that folder and click new file. And when you create a new file, again, you have all these different sections here. So you can choose from iOS, but obviously today we're working on visionOS. But it won't actually matter because SwiftUI is going to be available for all of the OSs. So you don't want to create a Swift file here. You'll notice we have a Swift file and we have a SwiftUI view. They look exactly the same, but again, we're creating some user interface or UI elements. So let's go ahead and create that SwiftUI view. Now we'll give our view a name. I don't have anything creative, so we'll just call it basic view because again, we're just focusing on the basics today. So let's go ahead and create that. And right away, you can see we get this nice looking file. We have a little bit of code and we also have a preview that's currently paused. Let's go ahead and let that load up. And while that loads, I can explain exactly what we're looking at here. So at the very top, anytime you see these double slash marks, that means that these are comments. These are like notes from the programmer that won't be run by the app. So you can type whatever you want here, literally whatever you want goes here. And again, these are just more so notes for other developers to read, or the developer himself or herself to be able to see that and say, oh yeah, that's what this code does. So anytime you see green text, again, just know that the actual computer, the app itself, is going to ignore anything that's in the green. Beneath that, we have import SwiftUI. So this is a really basic line of code that just makes it possible for us to use all of this other code that we'll be using today. And so the best way to explain this is these are what's called a framework. So SwiftUI is code. It's a bunch of code written by Apple to make your life easier. And rather than having you learn how to create all of this stuff from scratch, again, they've already paid their best engineers to create some really, really high quality stuff. And that makes it really easy for us to type 1, 2, 3 lines of code and do really complex stuff like augmented reality, virtual reality, etc. So that's a framework. We'll talk more about that as we get further, but let's go ahead and talk about views and buttons and text and everything else that you're actually used to. Now, you may have noticed our preview here. It did load up, so let's kind of move around here so you can see that a little bit better. But you can see it's just some really basic text. It says hello world, nothing crazy there. If I wanted to change that, obviously right here it says hello world and it says hello world over here. So if I change this here, let's change this and we'll just type in hello people of YouTube. There we go. And so now we have some great new text. Hello, people of YouTube. Really, really easy. But this is what's called a view. And so within Swift, within all iOS apps, everything is made up of views. And this is a concept that took me a long time to understand, surprisingly. But once you get it, I think it really opens up your mind to what everything is and how it's all put together. So everything that you see in an app is what's called a view. And if we hold the option button here, you'll get this nice question mark if you hover over view. So you can actually click on view here and it will tell you what a view is. Again, this is a really technical definition, so if you have no programming experience, it still may feel a little weird to you, but just know that's a pro tip. You can always hold the option key and hover over any element that you see here and learn a little bit more about it. So for this text view, let's actually hover over it and click it, and you can see that text is a view that displays one or more lines of read-only text. And here's some examples, and then you can see how we can also change the font and everything else that we can start to do with text. So again, basic lesson today, we won't be changing any fonts, but what we will be doing is explaining the concept of views and how to stack them and how to create some really sexy looking views. So again, our text view is stored inside of another view, which is our body. And again, this isn't something that you really see, but just imagine that this is the imaginary container that's holding this text in place. It tells the text, hey, this is my body, and you are here in the middle. And then above that, we have what's called a struct, and this is also a view. And again, it has our body and our text views inside of that. So again, when we created our basic view, all of these things were created for us. You won't have to memorize or create these things usually, but it is good to know how they work. So again, our framework that allows us to use views comes from SwiftUI. From there, we created a struct called basic view, which is just a view. Inside of that view, we have a body. And inside of that body, we have our text view, which stores our text that floats in the middle of our room. And so if we wanted to make this a little bit fancier, we can start to create some other views. So let's work on our next view here. Let's actually create something else here. So under our text view, let's do what's called a H stack. So, or a V stack. We'll work on some stacks here. So let's start with a V stack. Actually, I think it's easier to see. So we'll do V. And then right away, when I start typing the V, notice how there's a few suggestions that come up. There's V, there's V stack, There's VStack with some other stuff. There's void, visibility, blah, 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 blah. But let's go ahead and start with a VStack. So you can type this out or you can just press enter here. I like typing mine out and I'll show you why. So we'll do VStack, right? And then we're going to do 2 curly lines here. So we'll do one like that and then another one like that. So these are our open and closed brackets. And this is very essential because basically everything that's inside of these 2 brackets here will be inside of our VStack. And a VStack, this stands for vertical stack. So this is a stack where we can stack things vertically. So right now our text, if I try to take our text and I copy and paste it, and then I paste it under our text, notice how nothing really changes here in our view. You saw it kind of flickered for a second to update, but it looks exactly the same. So if instead we just highlighted both lines of text, Command C, and then we'll actually just right click and cut these because I don't need the old ones anymore. All right, so now we have our VStack here, which again is inside of our body. Let's paste this text inside of our VStack. So we'll do Command V, give it a second to update, or 3 seconds or 4 seconds. Let's see here. It's taking its time. So let's try even changing the text. Let's see here. There we go. All right. I don't know why it took so long, but we'll do hello people of YouTube on the top and hello world on the bottom. And so now you can see how we have 2 different lines of text and each one has its own separate kind of area. Okay, so that's a quick look at VStacks. Next, let's talk about HStacks. So we've talked about VStacks here. It's really simple to convert this into an HStack. We'll just hit the delete key and type in H. And now we have an HStack or a horizontal stack. And obviously it's stacked our content horizontally. So as we add more items here to our stack, they go horizontally. And if I wanted to change that back to a VStack, again, I can change that back to a V. And now our content is stacking vertically as a VStack. So really simple, really, really straightforward. I do want to show you a trick that I taught myself here because again, I'm a self-taught programmer. So throughout the years, I would just, find little hacks and things that help me as someone who didn't study computer science. And one basic thing about SwiftUI that you'll notice is as we start to add more views, it gets a little complex. It gets a little hard to track, especially if you don't have programming experience already. So at the end of our curly brace here, forget the name of that one, we'll go ahead and add a comment. So you'll do a / and a /. And that should create 2 green lines here. And now we can type whatever we want. And so I just want you to type in all caps, end of VStack. And that way it's really easy for you to see like, oh, everything that's inside our vertical stack here, it obviously ends here. And then we'll do one more thing here. Let's do another / here and we will do end of body. Because again, everything should be inside of the body. And if it's not inside of the body, I'm not even sure what happens. I don't think it works. So let's just go ahead and do that. And then let's create some space here because again, the VStack isn't the last thing we'll be creating today. So let's hit return and return. And that way we have a little bit of space to add in some more things. And it's just visually a little bit easier to understand. Beautiful. All right, so we have our comments on our stacks here. Let's make this a little bit fancier. So for starters, let's maybe just add in a special effect here. So I know I just told you to write end of VStack here, but we actually need to add in some content beneath that. So we'll hit the return button after that, and then you'll do dot. And let's just do a really simple one that's exclusive to visionOS. So we'll do glass background effect. And again, you can double click here with your mouse. You can type it out with the parentheses, or you can hit the tab key and then hit the tab key again, and that will auto complete that for you. And right away, you can see we get this nice glass effect that mostly fixes our text. You can see some of it is a little bit out of it, but I'll show you how to fix that in a second. But this is new to visionOS. Again, in visionOS, there is no dark mode or light mode. Instead, we have this nice glass effect that really does blend in with any type of environment and makes the content that you're presenting really easy to read and see. So let's make this a little bit more making sense here. So beneath or above our glass background effect, again, end of VStack, we'll just hit return, and then we'll type another dot, and we'll do dot padding. So again, I just press the tab button there. Sorry, it's a habit, but press tab and you should have that dot padding. And again, this creates some padding or some cushion around our actual text view here and just really makes it obviously super easy to read, and visually it just is coherent and makes sense. So very, very beautiful stuff here. Now, this is all, these are kind of like modifiers here. So these are properties or modifiers, things that really change the existing view. So again, if I took away our glass background effect, and rather than taking it away, let's show you another trick. I'll just do // and again, now it's commented out, so that code is no longer working. I can see the rest of our code is still working. And again, if I want it to bring our glass background effect back, we'll just hit delete, delete. And now without those green lines here, you can see that this code is affecting our view and it makes it look really, really pretty. So I think we should leave that there. Perfect. Now you have some of the basics here. Let's go on and create our next one here. So inside of our VStack, so again, this is the end of our VStack. Let's go back to that text. We'll press enter to create some more space. And let's create let's do a button. Why not here? So we'll go ahead and type in button. And then we will do, and actually before we do button, I'll teach you something a little bit simpler. So let's do an image. So we'll do image, and then I want you to do an open parentheses, or you can just click here because I see it right here. Image for system name. So again, we'll click image system name. You can see right here, it creates a symbol, a system symbol image. So this will allow us to create an image without bringing in any images. We can just use one from the system. Let's try this out. So we'll double click here, and then it's asking for a string. And if you don't know what a string is, don't worry, you've already used a string before. A string is just text. So right here, our text has inside of it a string as one of the parameters. And what our text view does is it takes in text, or a string, sorry, and then it creates a view that looks like that string visually here once we fix things. So let's go ahead, and for strings, you'll always need one particular thing. You'll need two parentheses here. So we have these are quotation marks. Yes, you'll need two quotation marks. And inside of our quotation marks, we'll type in the text that we would like to see. For ours, we need the system name of an image. And you may not know the system names. That's okay. In the very top right corner here, we'll press the plus button. And this will open up our library. And you can see I've already kind of clicked over here. So yours might have opened here, and all you need to do is click to the end here with a star symbol, and this is where we can find a lot of our system images. Now there is another app that will present these in a much better way, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. We're just going to build something cool. So let's find something cool, cool little symbol here, and I'm not too sure what is the coolest symbol on the block, so let's just type in something like sun. And right away, we have this cool sun and horizon fill. I think this looks pretty cool. It's like a sunrise for us. And so what we need is the name of this. So I can go ahead and just double click to highlight that, right click, copy. And then inside of our quotation marks for our system name image, we'll go ahead and hit Command V or paste it in. And look at that. We have this really nice, beautiful system image. Beautiful. And you know, this is great, but before we finish off here, let's get a little bit complicated. So underneath our text, let's start in H stack. So again, I'll type H, type stack, and then I'll do the open and close brackets here. So here's our open bracket, here's our close bracket. And so everything inside of our horizontal stack, or this container here, will be inside of these two open and close brackets. So I can hit enter, and right away you can see nothing's really changed. So let's go ahead and put our image here. We'll do a copy or a cut. Boom. Again, to keep you doing the right thing, let's type in end of H stack. There we go. And then inside of our H stack, let's just Command V and paste in that system image. And so now we have our system image. And then underneath that, let's paste in 2 more. So we'll do 1 and 1 more. And now give it a second to update and load this preview. It's taking its time. Again, it sometimes takes its time. And I think it's related to the beta and also just the text not really changing. There we go. So now we have 3 images which are horizontally stacked under our 2 pieces of text which are vertically stacked, and they're all stored inside this nice view that has a glass background effect. Beautiful. So we have our 3 suns here. Again, if I wanted to change one of these, maybe I'll do the moon, and it doesn't look like there's a great moon icon, but we can do our moon cloud rain right here. So we'll go ahead and copy that. And again, I'll just maybe replace the first one here. Boom, got that. And then on our last one, we got to keep it consistent here. So let's get one more system image. And this time, let's do sun again because we got to keep our weather theme. And let's do this thermometer fill button. Why not? So we'll do thermometer.sun.fill. And you can use any of these. You don't have to use the exact same system images that I'm using, but we'll go ahead and paste that in. And boom, we have this nice stack of horizontal icons. Now, you may have noticed that these are like kind of right on top of each other. Earlier, we used this dot padding effect to create some space around our view, and we can do the same thing to any view. So if I wanted to add padding to any of these images, I could, but more importantly, these images are stored inside of an H stack. And so rather than adding padding to the images, because I think they're pretty well spaced here, let's add some padding to our actual H stack. That way it's not so close to our V stack of text. So at the end of our H stack here, we'll do dot padding. And this time I'll type it out, and then we'll just do open parentheses, close parentheses. And look at that. We have a nice amount of space in between our H stack and our V stack that contains the text. All right, so we're making some really good progress here. We've created a few different views. We have our 2 text views inside of a V stack. We have our H stack, which is right here. And then we also have our end of our V stack, which contains our glass background effect. Now, there are some do's and don'ts with UI. I won't teach you those right now. I think it's more important that we just focus on the code and how all of this stacks together. So let's go ahead and create our next element here. And for our next element, we will do, let's do a button. Yeah, that's what we were going to do next. So underneath our H stack, and this is the beauty of SwiftUI, everything is going in the order that it is here on the code. So again, our V stack was first. So here's our V stack. We have our text. The first piece of text was hello people of YouTube. It's right there. Then we have hello world. It's right there. Then we have our nice, beautiful H stack. It's right here. And then we also added some padding, so we have some nice space in between those 2 things. Let's add a button underneath our H stack. So obviously, if I wanted to add a button underneath our H stack, I wouldn't start it here above our H stack. I would start it below our H stack. So beneath our H stack, we'll type in button. And buttons are a little bit fancier. So let's go ahead and use the presets here. Specifically, you'll want the one that says button action label. And this is because buttons do things. You know, we don't just look at buttons, we press them. And when we press a button, we expect something to happen. So let's go ahead and just double click here. And this will create everything we need because, as I had mentioned, buttons are a little bit fancier. So let's go ahead and just let this load. It should load. There's nothing broken here, I don't think. So let's maybe just refresh this. And I guess it really wants me to type in something here. So we'll do our parentheses here. I'll do my, sorry, these are curly braces, whatever you want to call them. Curly brace, there we go. Once those are set, we have a button. Now, what's great about buttons in visionOS is they work pretty much out of the box. They already have like some sound and some imagery attached to them. I don't know if you can hear this, but let's kind of hover over this, you can see every time I click that, we get a nice little thud sound. And then also you'll notice that anytime I hover over this, let's even zoom in so you can really see this. Anytime I hover over the button, it actually lights up a little bit. And that's because, again, remember in visionOS, we're not using a mouse pointer, we're using our eyes. And so if someone's looking at something, the best way to let them know that it's interactive is with an animation like this. It's very subtle, but again, if you were looking at something and it just kind of shimmered like that, you would feel like, oh, that must do something. And that's exactly the design language that Apple was able to communicate through visionOS and everything that they thought of. So this is really cool. Now our button is really basic here. You can see it just has a text view, which is the button, and that button says button. And that goes in the label section. So for our label, we have a view, and for our action, we have some more code that we could run. We're not going to add any actions yet because I think that's a little bit above your pay grade for today's video. But what we will do is change our button around. So let's maybe make this say, press me, right? Cool, really, really simple there. Maybe even take out the exclamation point. And then, you know, this is a nice looking button, but we can make it a little bit better because again, it's just a view that's representing the button. So if I go ahead and delete this, or rather than deleting it, above it, let's go ahead and create an H stack. And then again, we'll do our open and close curly brace. And then inside of our H stack, let's copy and paste our text for press me. And we'll put that right in there. And then now you can see that we have our press me button text. It's right there inside of our H stack. But what's great about this is because it's an H stack, we're horizontally stacking things. So if I wanted to take our image here, we'll go ahead and take our image, copy and paste that. And then underneath our text, we'll go ahead and just paste in that image. And what that does is it places an image to the right of our press me text. So isn't that pretty cool? We have a nice looking icon there next to the button. It really feels like a great looking button now. Now, if I wanted this icon to be to the left of our text, instead, I could just place this in front of our text. And now that same icon is to the left of our text. So it's really, really cool how easy it is to just kind of, you know, customize this, create views, and start to, you know, really branch out and just combine things that were really, really simple and again, eventually make them much more complex. So yeah, that's great. We have our press me button. We have our H stack here. We have our text. We have our V stack that stores it all. And it looks really, really nice. So you can start to imagine how maybe we're building some type of weather app. Maybe let's even change that. We'll call this our weather app. Beautiful. If I wanted to make this text at the top bold, again, I can hit dot bold, and this will modify that view. I just pressed tab there, just in case you're wondering. And now our text is bold, whereas the hello world text is just a little bit more basic. And you know, that text that's bold, it still feels like it's kind of clustered in there with the hello world. So let's add some more padding. We'll do dot padding. Again, I'll just press tab. And now we have our weather app, hello world, we have a nice little H stack of icons, and we have a press me button that makes a sound when we press it. I mean, this is a pretty good start. You're already, again, you're coding. This is real deal stuff. You can use this in an app. It's not pretend. So yeah, I'm so proud of you if you've made it this far. Let's wrap things up here. I said I wouldn't teach you how to create actions. And as I say that out loud, I think I'm going to stick to that because it gets a little bit complicated. But we'll definitely cover that in our next video. In fact, I think, yeah, this is probably a pretty good stopping point for our video. The last thing I'll show you here. So again, with our button, we can do that glass effect to anything. I don't recommend doing it here because that's against Apple's design guidelines, but I will go ahead and show you that. So glass background effect. Again, we have this nice, pretty glass looking button here. And typically speaking, Apple says that you shouldn't do glass on glass. So just keep that in mind. But I do really love the way that that looks. But let's go ahead and also change the color of our button. So we'll do dot foreground color. And then for our foreground color, this will change the color of our text. So let's do dot black just because. Boom, a black press me button, pretty nice. And we can also do a background color, I believe. So let's do dot background, and I could be getting this wrong. I think it's maybe fill. I forget the exact one here. I'll have to look at some of my existing code, but definitely we can change the color of our text, and we can change the color of our button, and we can change the color of any of our views here. So again, let's just do that really quickly. Let's do our cloud moon here. Let's actually do our sun. So for our sun.horizon, we'll do dot foreground color, and you guessed it, we're going to do yellow. Look at that. We have this nice looking yellow sun there. We have our thermometer, we have our moon, we have our press me button. We've made some progress. So again, this isn't really an app necessarily, but definitely you can start to see like, oh, I can create text, and I can create images, and I can create buttons, and I can create H stacks and V stacks. And once we combine all of these things, definitely we have a great looking view. So I think that's enough for this video. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. In our next video, we'll cover, like I mentioned, how to actually act on this button and make the button work. But for today's video, I think we've done more than enough. Thank you.